Rebecca Kern here at Laboratories, professional animal scientist. So as temperatures keep rising, I just wanted to address one of the most overlooked nutrients, I think, by most of us, and that's water. So it's important to make sure animals always have access to clean water to make sure that all of their biological functions can continue properly. So I just wanted to highlight that Ward Laboratories does have a livestock water suitability analysis, and I just wanted to go over a few of the things that we can learn from that. I also want to point out that we do have a livestock water suitability guide in the Ward guide, which can be found on our website. So the first item on that analysis is going to be the total dissolved solids, which is safe for all livestock species at less than 1,000 parts per million. The next item is hardness, and while hardness in and of itself doesn't have any clearly defined guidelines, if we're having mineral imbalance issues, it's likely that we have hard water, specifically if we are seeing symptoms in our animals for calcium or magnesium issues. The next thing is sodium. Less than 50 parts per million is safe for all livestock. Less than 400 parts per million is safe for swine, and less than 800 is safe for ruminant species. So we have a lot of variation there on what's safe depending on what animal is actually consuming that water source. Okay. pH is another one that doesn't have great guidelines, but the NRC does recommend a pH between 6.5 and 8.5. And then here's a big one that I think a lot of you livestock producers will recognize as being a potential issue, and that's nitrates. So nitrates typically aren't a huge issue in the water. It's not something we see often, but when we are having nitrates issues, the water is something to consider. So between 0 and 10 parts per million, totally safe. Once we get between 11 and 20 parts per million, we need to start considering what other sources of the diet are we seeing contributions from nitrate, and are we going to see nitrate toxicity begin to occur because of these. And again, this is especially issues with ruminants such as beef, cattle, sheep, and goats, because those rumen microbes are breaking that nitrate into nitrite, and the animal breathes it in. It doesn't allow oxygen to bind to the blood, and ultimately they're suffocating just because of this. Get out there, make sure you take good representative samples. If you need to use a pole with a water bottle taped to it to take that sample out of the middle of a lake or a lagoon, if that's what your animals are drinking out of, it's especially going to be important to take these analysis if we're seeing water sources start to dry up, as that just concentrates the minerals and the total dissolved solids that are in those water sources. If you're on a well, you probably don't need to test those every year. 3 to 5 years is going to be all right. You're not going to see a lot of changes. So let's keep some clean water sources available for our animals.